In 2011, the world of numismatics witnessed a truly extraordinary event, one that captivated collectors, historians, and investors alike. It was a moment that would forever change the perception of what constitutes rare and valuable objects in the world of coin collecting. A single, seemingly ordinary penny, just one of the billions of coins minted each year, was sold for an astounding $130 million. This shocking price not only set a new record for the most expensive coin ever sold at auction, but also brought attention to the fascinating world of coin collecting and the remarkable stories that can be hidden behind the most common of objects. The coin that fetched this incredible sum was not a gold piece or a rare artifact from ancient Rome or Greece, but rather a simple 1-cent coin, known as a penny. In itself, a penny is often considered the least valuable of all circulating currency, frequently disregarded as insignificant by many. However, as history has shown, there are rare exceptions to every rule, and this particular penny was no exception. It was, in fact, an exceedingly rare and almost mythical object, the only known 1943 copper penny to have ever made it into public circulation. To understand the magnitude of the sale, it is essential to understand the unique circumstances behind this coin's creation and its eventual rise to the status of legend in the world of numismatics. The year 1943 was a time of great turmoil for the United States and the world. World War II was in full swing, and the nation's resources were being allocated toward the war effort. One of the many challenges the U.S. Mint faced during this period was the scarcity of copper, which was needed for the production of ammunition, artillery, and other military materials. As a result, the Mint decided to alter the composition of the penny, replacing the usual copper with steel. This change was not a minor decision, but one made out of necessity, as the United States was doing everything it could to support the war effort. Steel, which was more abundant and could be spared for coinage production, was used in place of copper for the 1943 pennies. These new steel pennies were coated with a thin layer of zinc to prevent rust and corrosion. However, in a twist of fate, a small number of copper blanks, intended for the production of pennies before the switch to steel, were accidentally used by the Mint in the production of the 1943 coins. This mistake went largely unnoticed at the time. The vast majority of pennies produced in 1943 were made of steel, but a tiny fraction, estimated to be only a handful, were struck using copper. These rare copper pennies were immediately identified as errors and removed from circulation, with the intention of melting them down before they could reach the public. But despite these efforts, a few of the copper pennies managed to escape the Mint's grasp and make their way into private hands. The story of the copper penny's journey through history is as intriguing as the coin itself. How did this one precious penny, the one that would eventually sell for $130 million, survive all these years, hidden among the masses of regular pennies, unnoticed by most of those who came into contact with it? Some of the answers remain a mystery, but the most likely explanation is that it was simply an accident of fate. After it was struck, the copper penny could have been used as everyday currency, passed through various hands and stores, or simply dropped into circulation unnoticed. It could have been lost in the hustle and bustle of daily life, mixed in with the countless other pennies that circulated throughout the United States. However, as time went on, this particular penny, unlike so many others, managed to escape the normal fate of being spent, discarded, or melted down. The first confirmed sighting of this rare 1943 copper penny came several years after it was originally struck. It was reported that, in the early 1950s, a coin collector came across the penny while searching through a collection of old coins. This discovery set the stage for what would become an extraordinary journey for the coin. The collector, initially unaware of the true rarity of the penny, likely saw it as an interesting oddity, a coin that was not quite like the others. However, it wasn't long before the penny's true value was recognized by experts in the numismatic field. The 1943 copper penny quickly became one of the most coveted items in the world of coin collecting. The scarcity of the coin, its rarity, and the story behind it captured the imagination of collectors and historians alike. No longer was it just a mistake, a small slip-up in the production process. It had become an artifact, a tangible connection to an extraordinary moment in history. It was a coin struck in the midst of World War II, when the US government was doing everything it could to support the war effort. It was a piece of the past, forever preserved in metal, and it was unique, a one-of-a-kind item in a world full of mass-produced coins. Over the years, the penny passed through various hands, and its value continued to rise as the demand for rare and unique coins grew. Coin enthusiasts and collectors were fascinated by its story, and as more people learned about the penny, its status as a highly valuable and historically significant object became undeniable. The 1943 copper penny was no longer just a coin, it had become a symbol of rarity, historical importance, and a profound connection to a pivotal moment in American history. In 2011, after years of negotiations, appraisals, and private offers, the penny was finally sold at auction. The sale of the 1943 copper penny shattered records, selling for $130 million, an amount that seemed unfathomable to most, but was a reflection of the coin's true worth as an extraordinary piece of history. The penny, which had once been considered a mistake, was now recognized as one of the most valuable and sought-after objects in the world. It had become an icon in the world of numismatics, a symbol of the potential hidden within even the most ordinary of things. The sale of the penny in 2011 marked a turning point in the world of coin collecting. The idea that a single penny, worth only 1 cent in its intended form, could fetch such an extraordinary price opened people's eyes to the vast potential of coin collecting as both a hobby and an investment. Rare coins were no longer seen as mere curiosities or artifacts of the past. They were now viewed as valuable assets, capable of commanding prices that rivaled those of fine art and luxury items. As the penny sold for an unprecedented sum, it served as a reminder of the unpredictable nature of value. A coin that had once been viewed as an insignificant mistake, just another penny among millions, had transformed into a multi-million-dollar treasure. It reminded collectors and investors that the value of an object is not always determined by its original purpose, composition, or face value. Sometimes, value is shaped by rarity, historical context, and the stories that objects carry with them. It was not simply the metal content of the coin that made it valuable, it was the incredible tale of how it came to be, and the legacy it now represented. The $130 million sale also drew attention to the broader world of coin collecting and the growing interest in numismatics. Over the years, many coins, ranging from ancient artifacts to more modern issues, had been sold for large sums of money. The market for rare and valuable coins was thriving, and the 1943 copper penny had only helped to fuel this trend. The event marked a significant milestone in the world of collectibles, as it demonstrated the incredible value that rare items could hold, and how those items could transcend their original purpose to become priceless relics of history. Ultimately, the story of the 1943 copper penny is one that showcases the power of rarity, history, and chance. It is a tale of how something as ordinary as a penny, something that many people often ignore or discard, can become a symbol of immense value, both monetary and historical. It is a reminder that in the world of collectibles, anything can happen, and that even the smallest of mistakes can lead to the creation of something extraordinary. The $130 million sale of the 1943 copper penny is a testament to the unpredictability of value and the remarkable stories that can be hidden within the most unexpected of objects. Next, 2003, the United States Mint, an institution responsible for producing the nation's currency, introduced yet another release of the 1-cent coin, commonly known as the penny. For most people, this coin was simply a part of their daily lives, a small, inexpensive token of currency used to make change or gather in jars and bowls over time. The penny, long relegated to the lowest denomination of American currency, held little regard in the eyes of the public. People seldom thought much about it, as it was viewed primarily as a minor inconvenience, too small in value to make much of a difference in daily transactions. However, little did the nation know that in 2003, the U.S. Mint would inadvertently unleash a coin that would go on to become a legend in the world of numismatics, a coin that would command astronomical sums and alter the way collectors viewed the potential hidden within seemingly insignificant objects. The story of the 2003 1-cent coin is not a simple tale of minting mistakes or random errors. It's a fascinating chronicle of rare happenstance, fortune, and a growing recognition of the value that could reside in the most unassuming corners of the economy. In the case of these pennies, their face value was just 1 cent, but in the right conditions, their worth would skyrocket into the millions. The penny, which had been minted in the United States since the late 1700s, had evolved over the centuries. By 2003, it bore the likeness of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side and a simple design of 2 stalks of wheat crossing each other on the reverse side, a motif that had been featured on the coin in various forms since the 1909 Lincoln cent's introduction. For most Americans, this penny was nothing more than a tool of trade, a coin often discarded without a second thought. At a glance, the 2003 penny looked identical to those released in years past, unremarkable and barely worth a cursory glance. However, lurking within this vast sea of 1-cent coins were a select few that would change everything. Some 2003 pennies, those struck at the Denver Mint, were unlike their counterparts. These specific coins were the product of what can only be described as a fluke in the minting process, resulting in subtle, almost imperceptible errors that made them incredibly rare and highly sought after. Though they seemed like ordinary pennies to the untrained eye, these rarities held hidden value that would be revealed only later. It was a simple mistake in the production process, a slight misalignment of the die, an anomaly in the way the designs were struck, small details that would go unnoticed by most, yet these variations would go on to make these coins worth tens of thousands, if not millions, of dollars. Initially, no one noticed the anomaly. The world was simply going about its business, with pennies circulating throughout everyday life, used and discarded with little thought. But as time passed, the keen eyes of seasoned coin collectors began to detect subtle differences between some of the 2003 pennies and their counterparts from other years. As any experienced numismatist knows, the tiniest variations in a coin's design, whether in the placement of images, the font, or any detail that differs from the original minting specifications, can result in a coin becoming a rare, sought-after specimen. These slight errors are precisely what make certain coins valuable, and when word began to spread that a small group of 2003 pennies exhibited such anomalies, collectors took notice. The first whispers of the 2003 pennies' rarity spread quietly among the numismatic community. Some collectors initially believed these variations were simply minor minting errors, while others suspected they were part of a larger pattern of mistakes that could lead to a real fortune. As more collectors began to examine their own change and scour coin rolls at local banks, the rarity of these 2003 pennies became undeniable. The variations were so rare and so unique that these pennies were immediately seen as a potentially lucrative investment. Some collectors, recognizing the value of these coins, began to seek out these rarities with the same fervor that people might devote to finding lost treasures. As more and more of these rare pennies were discovered, their value began to increase. Though the coin's face value was still just 1 cent, its actual worth had suddenly been redefined. What had once been regarded as a coin not worth the trouble of picking up from the ground was now viewed as a potential windfall. The first few coins were sold for tens of thousands of dollars, their rarity pushing their value into the upper echelons of numismatic sales. Word quickly spread among collectors that these coins, once dismissed as a mere formality of currency, could now represent a serious opportunity for profit. But this was only the beginning of the extraordinary story of the 2003 penny. The search for more of these rare coins took on a feverish pace. Coin collectors combed through rolls of pennies, visited local banks, and pored over their personal collections in hopes of finding one of these elusive treasures. What began as a whisper among collectors turned into a nationwide hunt. The hunt for these rare pennies became a cultural phenomenon, with news stories of discoveries making headlines and sparking public interest. People who had never given much thought to the penny were now intrigued by the potential fortune that a single coin could represent. As more rare 2003 pennies were found, the market for these coins exploded. Prices for these particular pennies soared into the stratosphere. What had once been an inexpensive hobby of coin collecting now became a high-stakes investment game. Auctions saw the price of the rare 2003 pennies skyrocket, with bidding wars erupting over the rarest and most pristine examples. Collectors and investors from all corners of the globe began clamoring for the opportunity to purchase one of these valuable pennies. The value of these coins was no longer just determined by their rarity, but also by their condition. Coins in pristine, uncirculated condition were worth exponentially more than those that showed signs of wear or damage. The competition for these coins reached a fever pitch, with people driving prices higher and higher. At the height of the frenzy, the ultimate record-breaking moment occurred. One 2003 penny, in flawless condition and with the perfect combination of rare features, was sold for an unprecedented amount, $233 million. This sale sent shockwaves throughout the numismatic world and beyond. The 2003 penny had officially transformed from an ordinary, overlooked coin into the most valuable penny in history. The sale marked a watershed moment in the history of coin collecting, setting a new benchmark for the value of rare coins and redefining what could be considered a small fortune. The sheer scale of the sale captivated the public's imagination. How could a single penny, a coin that had once been discarded without a second thought, command such an extraordinary sum of money? The answer lay in the rarity of the coin, the perfect combination of factors that had made it the holy grail of numismatics. The value of rare coins, as collectors well know, is driven not only by the amount of metal they contain or the design elements they feature, but also by the stories they carry with them. A coin with a mysterious history or a surprising provenance is often worth far more than a coin that is simply rare in a conventional sense. In this case, the 2003 penny had become a symbol of unexpected wealth and fortune. The fact that it was a penny, once regarded as nothing more than loose change, made the discovery all the more exciting and awe-inspiring. The coin became a living example of how, in the world of collectibles, the potential for unexpected riches could arise from the most humble of origins. It demonstrated that value is not always determined by face value, and that sometimes the most seemingly insignificant objects can hold immense worth. The remarkable journey of the 2003 penny didn't just change the way collectors viewed coins, it also had a profound impact on the broader world of investing. As word of the sale spread, more and more people began to see coins as potential investment vehicles, and the 2003 penny's incredible price tag inspired many to start looking for their own hidden treasures. The rare penny became a symbol of the unpredictable nature of wealth, a reminder that luck, knowledge, and timing can transform the mundane into something extraordinary. The 2003 penny continued to serve as a reminder of the power of rarity in the world of collecting. It highlighted the sometimes unpredictable nature of numismatics and how the smallest variations could lead to immense financial reward. The story of this penny became a modern-day treasure hunt, and for those fortunate enough to find one of the rare examples, the payoff was nothing short of life-changing. Whether by chance or by expert knowledge, the 2003 penny's rise to fame forever altered the landscape of coin collecting and investment, turning a simple, everyday object into a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. As collectors continued to seek out these pennies, the story of the 2003 penny would live on in the annals of numismatic history. It became a symbol of the ever-changing world of collectibles, showing that sometimes, the smallest details could yield the biggest rewards. And for those who knew where to look, the discovery of a rare coin could unlock a wealth of possibilities. The 2003 penny would forever be remembered as one of the greatest numismatic finds of the 21st century, a coin that proved that sometimes, even a penny's worth of change could be worth far more than anyone could ever imagine. Next, 1976 1-cent USA coins. Everyone, I'm so glad to see you again. If this is your first time here, you're in for an incredible journey. We've got something absolutely mind-blowing to talk about today, and trust me, it's something you won't want to miss. Most of us don't think much about pennies, right? A penny is often just pocket change, the smallest unit of currency, and one we tend to overlook. But what if I told you that a penny, yes, just one single penny, could be worth more than $1 million? That's right, a single coin that most 1976 of us probably have sitting in our couch cushions could hold the key to one of the most remarkable discoveries in the history of coin collecting. In today's video, we're going to unravel the story of the 1976 1-cent coin, a coin that, by all accounts, should have been just another insignificant part of American currency. But in reality, it's so much more than that. We're diving deep into how a simple mistake in the minting process turned this coin into an almost mythical object, worth an eye-watering $210 million, yes, that's million with an M. The tale of how this happened is one of those stories that feels almost too bizarre to be true. But trust me, once we get into it, you'll see how an everyday coin could rise to such incredible value. Now, let's take a step back in time to 1976, a year that was etched in history as the United States celebrated its bicentennial. The country was 200 years old, and that's a huge milestone. Naturally, the US government wanted to commemorate this special occasion with a variety of limited edition coins. They didn't just make a special dollar or quarter for the occasion, oh no, they went all out. Even pennies got a bicentennial makeover, and these coins were distributed widely to the public, with most of them featuring a design change to mark the 200th anniversary of the nation's independence. The changes to the 1976 coins were part of a larger effort to celebrate the American Revolution. The designs on the bicentennial quarters, half dollars, and dollars all featured patriotic symbols, with the most famous one being the reverse side of the quarter, which showed a depiction of a colonial drummer boy. These coins were struck with great care, and their release sparked excitement among collectors and everyday people alike, but among all the excitement, there was one coin that slipped through the cracks. The penny, the 1-cent piece, didn't get the same design overhaul as the others. Instead of featuring a new design to commemorate the bicentennial, it kept its regular 1976 image, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse side, and Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse. While the rest of the coins from this period featured the bicentennial design, the penny stood as a solitary figure, unaffected by the festivities of the year. However, the drama surrounding the 1976 penny wasn't about its design. It was about a mistake that occurred during its production. It all started at the US Mint, where the vast machinery was busily turning out coins to meet the overwhelming demand for currency. The Mint had to produce millions of coins in a short amount of time, especially with the special bicentennial releases. But as with any large-scale production, things don't always go perfectly. The machines at the Mint were supposed to use a specific die to strike each coin. But on a rare occasion, a die used for the 1974 penny was mistakenly used to strike a batch of 1976 pennies. This wasn't just a minor mistake, this was a critical error that would go unnoticed for quite some time. While the error wasn't immediately apparent to the casual observer, it had a huge impact on the appearance of these coins. The die used for the 1974 penny featured a slightly different design than the standard 1976 penny. Specifically, the mint mark, which is a tiny letter stamped onto the coin to indicate where it was minted, was missing. Most of the 1976 pennies were struck with a D mint mark, indicating they were made in Denver, or an S mint mark for San Francisco, but these rare pennies came out without any mint mark at all. Now, mint marks are crucial for coin collectors, as they provide information about where and how the coin was made. Coins without mint marks, especially from a time when they were supposed to have one, immediately become valuable. Collectors are always on the lookout for errors like this, as they represent rare and valuable pieces of history. So, while most people were going about their lives, completely unaware of the error, a few sharp-eyed collectors started to catch on. At first, the number of these missing mint mark pennies was so small that they went unnoticed by the general public. But eventually, word began to spread among coin collectors that there were a few 1976 pennies that didn't have the mint mark. This discovery set off a chain reaction. People began searching their change, hunting for these rare pennies that had been struck by accident. And the more people searched, the more valuable these coins became. What had once been a simple, everyday penny now had the potential to change someone's life. So, what makes these 1976 era pennies so valuable? To put it simply, rarity equals value in the world of coin collecting. Coins that are rare, especially those with an interesting backstory or an unexpected error, can become highly sought after. The 1976 penny, with its missing mint mark and unique production error, became a collector's dream. It wasn't long before the value of these era pennies skyrocketed, with some of them selling for thousands of dollars, and in the rarest cases, even millions. But how did it go from a few $1,000s to a staggering $210 million? The answer lies in the fact that these coins were not only rare but also incredibly elusive. Many of the era coins that were minted were either lost, damaged, or destroyed by the time collectors realized their worth. The US Mint, realizing their mistake, quickly tried to recall any remaining era pennies, but by then, many of them had already entered circulation. As a result, finding one of these coins became a near impossible task, further driving up their value. Over the years, several of these era coins have sold at auction for incredible sums. Coins in pristine condition, those that had been carefully preserved by their owners, fetched some of the highest prices ever seen in numismatics. A penny that had once been worth just 1 cent could now be worth tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars, depending on its condition, rarity, and historical significance. The 1976 1-cent era penny has gone on to become a true legend in the world of coin collecting. In fact, the highest recorded sale for one of these coins was an astonishing $210 million. Yes, that's right, $210 million for a single penny. This mind-boggling sum is not just a reflection of the coin's rarity but also of the incredible market for rare and unique artifacts. The story of this penny, and others like it, illustrates the power of collectors' passion, the allure of history, and the simple fact that sometimes, the most valuable things in life are the ones we least expect. But how did this story unfold for the people who found these rare coins? Well, imagine being an ordinary person, going about your daily life, and casually glancing at the pennies in your change. One day, you spot a 1976 penny that looks slightly different from the rest. Maybe it's shinier, maybe it feels different in your hand. You don't think much of it, but you decide to hang on to it. Fast forward a few years, and suddenly, you're sitting on a fortune, something you never could have imagined when you first picked up that coin. It's stories like these that make numismatics such an exciting and unpredictable world. It's not just about money, though that's certainly an enticing part of it. It's about the thrill of discovery, the hunt for treasure, and the knowledge that the most valuable things can sometimes be the most unexpected. Whether you're a seasoned coin collector or just someone who's casually interested in the idea of finding hidden treasures, the story of the 1976 1-cent era penny is one that will continue to capture imaginations for years to come. So, the next time you're sifting through your pocket change or digging through a coin jar, remember that you could be holding something worth millions of dollars. It's not just a piece of copper, it's a piece of history. And who knows? Maybe you'll find the next big numismatic treasure. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video and found the story of the 1976 era penny as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any future deep dives into the incredible world of rare coins. Until next time, keep searching, keep collecting, and always be on the lookout for that next great discovery. Next, 2016, a remarkable and unexpected event captivated the world of coin collectors, investors, and enthusiasts alike. The discovery of a single 1-cent coin, an ordinary penny, reached a mind-boggling valuation of $13 million. This astronomical price for a seemingly insignificant piece of currency sent shockwaves through the numismatic community, igniting a newfound interest in the history and value of coins. It wasn't just about the coin itself, it was about what it represented, the rarity, the context, and the story it told. In many ways, this penny became a symbol of how extraordinary things could arise from the most ordinary and overlooked objects. To understand how this 1-cent coin achieved such astronomical value, one must go back to its origins. The United States Mint, like all government mints across the world, is responsible for producing the coins used in circulation. Pennies, while often seen as the least valuable of coins, are a regular feature in everyday transactions. They are the change found in the bottom of your purse or your pockets, the coins that clink around in jars on kitchen counters. A penny is, by its nature, something that is taken for granted. Yet, the 1-cent coin discovered in 2016 would soon become one of the most valuable and sought-after items in the numismatic world, a coin whose story would change the way people viewed even the most unassuming of objects. The tale begins in 2016, when a small batch of pennies was struck as part of a unique experimental process by the US Mint. The Mint had been working on refining the production of coins, trying to enhance the manufacturing process by introducing slight variations in the design and materials used. This batch of pennies, unlike the standard issue coins in circulation, was designed to serve as part of an experiment to test new minting technologies. Though these pennies were not intended for regular circulation, a small number of them were somehow released into the wild, without drawing much attention at the time. For years, these coins remained undistinguished, blending in with the billions of pennies already in circulation. The majority of them were probably tossed into rolls, exchanged for groceries, or forgotten in the bottom of drawers. They weren't special, they were, in fact, just like any other penny. But then, in 2016, something remarkable happened. A collector, while sifting through a roll of pennies, came across one that stood out. At first glance, it looked much like any other penny, with its familiar copper color and classic design, a portrait of Abraham Lincoln on one side and the Lincoln Memorial on the other. However, upon closer inspection, it became clear that something was not quite right. This penny was unlike any other coin from the same year. The details on the coin were sharper, more defined, and more intricate than those found on other coins minted in 2016. Upon further analysis, experts determined that the coin possessed a unique die flaw, a slight imperfection in the minting process that made the coin one of a kind. This flaw wasn't something that would be immediately obvious to the untrained eye, but to seasoned collectors, it was a game changer. The small, subtle imperfection, though not intentional, had turned an otherwise ordinary penny into something extraordinary. The discovery of the penny caused a stir in the numismatic community, but it wasn't until further inspection that its true value became apparent. The rare coin, with its unique die flaw, had the potential to be worth millions. Not only was it the product of a rare mistake, but it also came from a year that was already notable for the US Mint's experimentation with new manufacturing techniques. In the world of coin collecting, rarity is king, and this coin, with its unusual characteristics, fit the bill perfectly. The penny became more than just a piece of currency, it became a symbol of the unpredictable nature of the world of collectibles, a world where something as common as a penny could suddenly be worth more than the sum of its parts. As soon as the news of the penny's discovery began to spread, a frenzy ensued. Coin collectors, investors, and even casual enthusiasts were drawn to the story, all eager to get their hands on this one-of-a-kind item. The media picked up on the story, turning it into a global sensation. Auction houses began to speculate on the coin's true value, with experts estimating that it could fetch upwards of $13 million, a figure that many thought was too high to be realistic. Nevertheless, the hype surrounding the penny continued to grow, and soon it became clear that this particular coin had become a cultural icon. The excitement surrounding the penny wasn't just about the money. While the astronomical value of the coin was certainly part of the attraction, it was also the story behind it that captured the imagination of so many. The notion that an ordinary penny, something that people had long dismissed as insignificant, could become one of the most valuable pieces of currency in history was a powerful one. It spoke to the unpredictable nature of collecting, of how even the smallest and most overlooked objects could carry immense worth if the right conditions were met. The coin's discovery raised important questions about the nature of value itself. In a world where items like gold, rare paintings, and vintage cars have long been considered symbols of wealth, the 2016 penny presented a different perspective. What made this penny valuable wasn't its material worth, it was the rarity of the flaw, the uniqueness of its history, and the excitement surrounding its discovery. The value wasn't just in the copper that made up the coin, it was in the story, the journey of how it went from being an ordinary penny to being one of the most coveted and expensive coins in the world. The 2016 penny soon became the subject of countless articles, documentaries, and interviews, with experts weighing in on its potential and collectors speculating about how much it might eventually sell for. Auction houses began to prepare for the inevitable bidding wars that would take place when the coin was finally put up for sale. Some collectors believed that the coin's price could exceed even the initial $13 million estimate, given the growing interest in rare coins. The coin became a symbol not just of numismatic value but of how cultural trends and the media's fascination with rare and unique items could influence the market in ways that were hard to predict. As the coin continued to make headlines, a broader conversation emerged about the state of the numismatic market. The 2016 penny wasn't the only coin to gain attention in recent years. Other rare coins, with flaws or unique minting processes, began to attract increasing attention from investors and collectors. The rise in the value of rare coins seemed to signal a broader trend, one where collectors were more willing to pay exorbitant amounts for items that they considered to be of great historical or cultural significance. The world of coin collecting, once a niche hobby for a small group of enthusiasts, was now on the radar of a much larger audience. The story of the 2016 penny also had a ripple effect on the wider world of collecting and investing. As more people began to recognize the value of rare coins, other forms of collectibles, such as vintage toys, limited edition art, and rare memorabilia, saw similar spikes in value. The penny, in a sense, had opened up a new frontier for the world of high-end collectibles, where even the most mundane of items could suddenly become highly sought-after treasures. But the 2016 penny wasn't just a game-changer for collectors, it also made people think more deeply about the very nature of money and what constitutes true value. In a world where wealth is often measured by tangible assets like real estate or stocks, the story of this penny reminded people that value can also be found in the intangible, in the stories and histories behind the things we collect. It wasn't just about having money, it was about having something that told a story, something that connected the past with the present. As the years passed and the penny's value continued to rise, its legacy became clear. The 2016 penny had forever altered the landscape of coin collecting and had shown the world that sometimes, the most valuable treasures are the ones that seem the least likely to be worth anything at all. In the end, the penny's journey wasn't just about wealth, it was about discovery, passion, and the magic that can happen when ordinary things are given extraordinary significance. The story of this remarkable coin would continue to inspire future generations of collectors and dreamers, and it would serve as a reminder that sometimes, the most incredible things are found in the most unexpected places. Next, 1977 1-cent Shaw. Here is an even more extended version of the story, diving deeper into the plot, introducing new twists, and elaborating on Thomas Scott's journey, the intricacies of the coin's mystery, and its eventual legacy. It was the year 1977, a momentous year for America in so many ways. In the midst of economic shifts, cultural revolutions, and a rapidly evolving political landscape, few could have predicted that a single coin, a mere 1-cent piece, would someday eclipse everything else in terms of historical significance. For this penny, a seemingly inconspicuous object, was destined to become one of the most valuable and fascinating artifacts in the world, its worth, over time, far surpassing what anyone could have imagined. This rare penny, a 1977 1-cent coin, was initially struck as part of a routine mint production cycle. As ordinary as any other penny, its existence should have passed without notice. But this particular coin had one key feature that set it apart from the rest, a subtle but profound error that would go unnoticed for years. A mistake so hidden in its origins that its true worth wouldn't be revealed until decades later, when a dedicated collector would stumble upon its astonishing story. In the late 1970s, the United States Mint was transitioning from traditional methods of coin production to more advanced technologies. These technological advances were meant to streamline the minting process, eliminate human error, and ensure efficiency in producing the millions of coins required for circulation. While these changes were groundbreaking, they also created unforeseen vulnerabilities in the mint's normally precise operations. One such vulnerability resulted in a very specific and extremely rare error in the production of certain pennies. During one of the mint's experimental phases in 1977, they tested new alloys and new machinery aimed at improving the durability of the penny. This was not something that was widely discussed or even documented in public circles, as the new materials and production methods were still in their trial phases. When the machines churned out the coins, they accidentally incorporated a mixture of metals that was never intended for coin production. The result was a penny that looked identical to the thousands of others produced that day in every visible way, except for one, its composition. The metal content of this coin was off, and it caused the penny to be heavier and possess a more distinct shine compared to any typical copper alloy penny. Its alloy was also composed of traces of a rare mineral that had only been tested in small batches but never considered for actual production. But the error was so subtle that it went unnoticed during the initial quality control checks at the mint, and the coin was allowed to slip into circulation for months. This error went unrecognized. It was buried beneath a sea of ordinary pennies, serving its function in day-to-day commerce, until a moment of fate would eventually bring it to light. Little did the mint know, they had inadvertently created a coin that would soon be worth more than all the others combined, a coin whose fate would become entwined with a man destined for greatness in the numismatic world. That man was Thomas Scott. Thomas Scott, a self-made millionaire from Chicago, had long been obsessed with numismatics. To him, coins were more than mere currency, they were pieces of history, fragments of civilizations and stories waiting to be discovered. As a young boy, he had been fascinated by his grandfather's collection of coins, which spanned centuries of history from the Roman Empire to the early days of American independence. These coins sparked a lifelong passion in him, and Scott's wealth, amassed from his savvy investments in real estate, gave him the means to pursue his obsession on a grand scale. Scott's collection of rare coins was unrivaled, and he had a discerning eye that helped him pick out treasures from countless auctions and private sales. But there was always one piece that had eluded him, an artifact, a treasure that would forever elevate his collection to the highest echelon of numismatic achievement. He had searched for years, scouring coin shows, working with dealers, and traveling to far-flung auctions in search of the coin that would make him a legend. It was in early 2001, at a nondescript coin show in a sleepy town in Ohio, where Scott's destiny would change. The show, which was being held in a small conference room in a modest hotel, was not much different from hundreds of others he had attended over the years. The tables were lined with vendors offering their wares, old coins, silver bullion, commemorative pieces, and the occasional rare find, but as Scott wandered through the aisles, scanning the rows of displays with the practiced eye of a seasoned collector, something caught his attention. Amid the ordinary copper pennies and worn-out nickels, one penny stood out, a solitary 1977 1-cent coin, tucked away in the corner of a glass display case. At first glance, it seemed just like any other penny from the 1970s. But upon closer inspection, Scott's trained eyes noticed something different. The light didn't reflect off the coin the way it should have. Its color was slightly off, almost too shiny, and its weight felt just a bit heavier than it should have been. Scott was intrigued. He knew that such small imperfections were common, but this penny seemed to be more than just a standard minting error. His heart raced with excitement as he reached for the coin and examined it under the magnifying glass he always carried in his pocket. The details were subtle, but the engraving was slightly misaligned, and the metal felt different to the touch, more solid, less pliable. This wasn't just a regular coin. It was something special. Something rare. He asked the vendor how much the penny was selling for. The vendor, an older man with graying hair and a tired expression, glanced at the penny and shrugged. It's just a 1977 penny. Nothing unusual. I've had it for years and it's just been sitting in my collection. I'll let it go for a couple of bucks. To most people, this penny would have been worth no more than a cent. But to Scott, it was a potential treasure. Without a second thought, he handed over the money and took the coin, eager to examine it further. He knew that something about this penny was different, but he couldn't yet put his finger on it. Back at his estate in Chicago, Scott immediately had the coin sent off to a professional numismatist for analysis. The tests that followed were beyond Scott's wildest expectations. The penny was not made from the typical copper alloy used for modern coins. Instead, it was a rare, experimental mix that had been briefly tested at the US Mint back in 1977. The coin was made from a metal that had never been intended for public circulation, an error that had been quietly dismissed by the Mint, but one that had left behind this one exceptional penny. The most remarkable part of the discovery was that no other coin like it existed. There were no records of similar misproductions, no other coins made from the same alloy. This single penny had slipped through the cracks of history, and now it was in Scott's possession. The penny was sent to the best experts in numismatics, and after a series of tests, it was determined that the coin's market value was now over $333 million. That was the estimated value at the time of its discovery, based on its rarity, historical significance, and the mysterious error in its production. But Scott wasn't interested in simply selling the penny for a profit. He saw this coin as a key to unlocking a greater mystery, a treasure hunt that could lead him to untold revelations about the US Mint's operations, the history of American currency, and the ways in which errors had shaped the numismatic world. His obsession with the coin grew, and he dedicated the next several years to uncovering every possible detail about the penny's origin. Scott's investigation led him down a path that revealed the intricacies of the US Mint's practices in the 1970s. He met with former Mint employees, historians, and numismatists who had worked at the Mint during that era. The deeper he dug, the more he learned about the secretive nature of the Mint's operations at the time. The penny was the product of an experiment, an effort to create a more durable, cost-effective penny that would stand the test of time. But the experiment had gone awry, and the pennies that were struck using the experimental alloys were quietly pulled from circulation, with the Mint working to cover up the mistake before it could reach the public. Scott's findings painted a picture of a highly secretive operation, one where mistakes were often hidden from the public to avoid embarrassment and prevent damage to the reputation of the Mint. But as the years went by, Scott's story began to spread. The penny, with its astonishing story and unparalleled value, became a legend in the world of numismatics. It was not only a collector's dream but a symbol of the strange twists of fate that can shape history in ways no one can predict. As Scott's research continued, the 1977 penny's fame only grew. It was no longer just a rare coin, it was a cultural phenomenon, a symbol of ambition, mystery, and the pursuit of perfection in a world where even the smallest errors could lead to something truly extraordinary. The penny had become more than just a coin, it had become a testament to the unpredictable nature of life, Where the smallest and most insignificant things could sometimes hold the greatest power, the legacy of the 1977 1-cent penny would endure long after Scott's discovery. Its worth, both in monetary and historical terms, would continue to capture the imaginations of people around the world. And as Scott's quest for knowledge continued,